Hello and welcome back. Is Donald Trump the disclosure president? I never thought for a second that we would probably get disclosure under Trump, only because it's the second time that he's been in the presidency. And if he was going to disclose about NHI, UFOs, aliens, whatever you want to call them, he would have done it the first time round. Let's take a look. According to Rubio, he's going to do it. I'm not convinced.
Joining us now is Michael Schellenberger, journalist and founder of Public News. Welcome back to the show, Michael. Always great to have you on. So no less than the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, went on camera in this documentary saying publicly that the U.S. government has recovered alien technology from non-human sources and is currently working to reverse engineer it. That's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be with you, Elizabeth. It's already a historic moment. I mean, we've never had anybody at Rubio's level. And keep in mind, Rubio is also the national security advisor. The last time you had the Secretary of State and the national security advisor as the same person was Henry Kissinger between 1973 and 1975. Rubio is, arguably number three, although the State Department is number one in foreign policy after the president.
What gets me, though, is he saying it for a fact, as in, yes, we have the technology. We are reverse engineering it. I've seen it. I've touched it. Maybe not touched it, but you know what I mean. It's like physically, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've gone into the hangar. I've gone in the underground bunker. I've seen the bodies. I've seen the technology. It's there. Obviously, saying I believe that we have the technology and that it's secretly compartmentalized, and basically places like Lockheed and other sort of, other tech companies have got the technology so that we don't have to have government oversight for it. It just needs to be clear. What does he know for definite?
Elizabeth, I think what this all means is that the president needs to address this issue. He needs to speak directly to the American people and explain what's going on here. There is conflicting messages. The Department of War has the same line that they've had for years, which is very specific, and they say there's no evidence of extraterrestrials.
It's I was reading something about, and I'm tongue-tied today, by the way. I'm just really tired. I was reading something about that you've got to be really specific with your terminology, which is why NHI is now more prevalent than using the word alien. Because if you say extraterrestrial, they can say, yes, we have no evidence of extraterrestrials visiting Earth, because that basically says a civilization from another planet in the cosmos has come and visited Earth. Whereas this could be interterrestrial, interdimensional. It could be something that's native to the planet that we just don't fully understand. So if we say non-human intelligence, it's a more of a broader sweeping statement rather than just saying extraterrestrial, alien, or spacecraft.
I asked why they used that word because it wasn't a word I used, and they said, well, they referred me to their report. But look at what you have on the other side. You have not just, you have the president himself, the vice president, the director of national intelligence, the secretary of state going further than any of them, and agreeing to even participate in this movie.
Yeah.
Is itself a major statement. So I think, look, there's conflicting messages. The president, I think, needs finally to address this issue.
It does feel like we've been building to this, these congressional hearings, these members of Congress. For the longest time, Michael, it was like people with tinfoil hats were talking about UFOs, and they were dismissed as Looney Tunes. And slowly...
I don't like her terminology that she uses sometimes. It's like she's almost uninformed on the subject, but she's just reading from a cue card, and it's like Looney Tunes, tinfoil hats. And I know she's using terminology to say there's a lot of stigma about the subject. But when she was interviewing Dan Farrar, she was using terminology like alien spacecraft. We need to get away from that.
But surely, people still make fun of it. But, there have been very serious congressional hearings with very serious whistleblowers testifying under oath. It does feel like we're getting to a moment, because especially in this documentary, it says it's not just the United States reverse engineering these spacecraft that we have found. Russia and China have also found craft and are also reverse engineering. This is a secret arms race happening.
Yeah, I mean, look, Elizabeth, people sometimes ask me, they go, what do you believe is happening? What do you, Michael Schellenberger, think is happening?
Before he gets into what he believes, I just can't believe for a second that every major power on the planet in an 80-year or even not longer cover-up has had a success of covering up without major proof coming out by now. I just can't believe that every sort of government operates in the exact same way when you've got adversaries like China, Russia, the US. I don't know. It just doesn't ring true to me, to be honest.
Who cares? I mean, I really don't have secret clearance. I don't have any confidential access to information. You should care what the Secretary of State says.
Right.
The director of the CIA, the director of national intelligence, the vice president. They're all saying that this is not just ridiculous and something that shouldn't be taken seriously. But you've still got the Department of War that's sort of dismissing it. I just think the way that this has progressed is that we're at a place now where it's like, look, Elizabeth, I can't do many more hours of podcasts, speculating about this issue when we know that the people that run the government now have the power to tell us what it is. And like I said in my piece, if it's all a delusion and it's all a kind of circular reporting based on disinformation from the 50s and 60s, then the president should reveal that. But either way.
Problem is, if Trump came out tomorrow and said, ladies and gentlemen, it's beautiful, it's all beautiful, but it's all a lie. People back in the day were talking absolute bollocks, and it's all a lie. There are no UFOs. It was all a big disinformation campaign to cover up black projects. People are not going to believe him. People are not going to believe him one way or the other. They're just going to say, yeah, it's just more lies, more spin, more of a cover-up. So he could come out and say that. Doesn't mean people will believe him.
You have very conflicting messages coming from the highest levels of our government. I think they need to figure out a way to deconflict that.
The jury is still out on just how fast and how far the bombshell Age of Disclosure documentary moves the needle on UFO disclosure. But according to a new report, we may be closer than you think. Journalist Michael Schellenberger published an article today quoting a senior advisor to Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, who says, quote, "We are headed toward a massive disclosure." Now, just when that might happen, it remains vague, but it does reflect the sentiment of the moment. After several congressional hearings on Capitol Hill and whistleblowers like David Grush speaking out publicly on this show for the first time, it does feel as though we're closer than ever to our government acknowledging allegations that it has some sort of secret program trying to reverse engineer alien spacecraft. That allegation was examined thoroughly in the 1-hour, 50-minute documentary. Rubio was by far the most senior official who went on the record, on camera, demanding answers. And the documentary wasn't the first time that he's voiced his concern about this. He spoke to NewsNation in 2023 and said individuals with high clearances to work on this top secret program are too afraid to speak out because they fear retribution.
So has he seen the evidence, or has he believed the evidence exists? Still not clear. In terms of disclosure as well, I saw something on Reddit. I know, apologies, Reddit. Go a cesspool, that place. But one of the theories around why disclosure is still happening is because the truth of disclosure would be so shattering to people's perception of reality that social and basically civilization would collapse. One of the theories was that humans were put here as containers for the soul, and the souls themselves were to be matured so that they could be used by whatever the NHI are. Don't think it's like a feeding thing, but it was weird. And it was like, so people, if you think, oh yeah, this is the only reason we're here is for containers for the soul, and the soul after we die is used by some NHI for some purpose, it's pretty fucking grim, real. If you think about it, that's grim. It's like, all right, so the only purpose of life is to nourish the soul, and then that soul's going to be used by NHI when we die. I could imagine societal collapse in that case if it was come out to be proven to be true. Not saying it is, or I believe it, but it's just one of the theories of why disclosure hasn't happened.
Some of these people still work in the government, and frankly, a lot of them are very fearful of their jobs, fearful of their clearances, fearful of their career, and some, frankly, are fearful of harm coming to them.
It is not just government employees who are in the know. Rubio believes the U.S. government has handed over these UFOs, these spacecraft that they have found.
I'm saying spacecraft. We don't know what they are.
To private military contractors. He says those contractors know more about these crafts than the U.S. government. National security risk? Sure sounds like it could be. Well, my next guest says, actually, this is a huge deal, what Rubio said. Merrick von Rennenkampf served at the Departments of State and Defense. He's also a contributor at The Hill. Great to have you back on the show. So why do you think what Rubio said is a big deal?
Well, it's a big deal because he's alleging, and in the clip that you teed up there, he said that generals and admirals had come to Congress when he was the vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee and alleged that there are unreported secret UAP programs that even the president is not aware of. When you have flag officers, general officers coming in to Congress behind closed doors, essentially sneaking in to Congress to make these allegations, that's explosive. That is extraordinary. It deserves all of the attention that NewsNation, that you have been putting onto it. What did just rub me a little bit the wrong way is that now, 2 years later, so Rubio made the exact same comments 2 years ago when he was in Congress. Now he's the national security advisor, which is perhaps besides the president, perhaps the most powerful position from in the national security enterprise, which sits at the intersection of the intelligence community and the Pentagon. And he's still saying the same thing. He's not. He's not verifying. He's not debunking. He's not denying this. It's kind of there's a bit of a concern on my end that he was not able to, if this is such a big deal, and it is when generals and admirals come forward and make these claims, that he is not able to either say publicly what has been found or to debunk this.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, comes out and says, yeah, these are the things I've been told, and this is a concern. The president doesn't even know. So now he's in this position. He's coming out with the same statements. So either he doesn't have the clearance to tell people, meaning Trump himself is saying, I don't want this, whatever you found, to be made public until we're ready, or it's just noise and it's something that he believes but still doesn't have proof for. Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Here's what he said, though, in that soundbite.
And as a general or an admiral, I can imagine that if you've got troops on the front line, or you've got people doing maneuvers where troops end up dying through training exercises or through conflicts across the globe somewhere in skirmishes. I don't say full-fledged wars, but in potential skirmishes. And then you've got third-party contractors holding technology that is like 100 years advanced of where we are right now. And you go, why are the troops dying when we've got this technology? Well, like, why are we going into places to try and steal oil from like Iraq, or going into Venezuela to stop the drug boats and obviously not make any deals with the minerals that they've got in that territory if we change the regime? You know what I mean? It's like, if we've got this technology, then we should be making it public. We should be developing it and not having this secret arms race between nations. which I'm not sure still exists, to be honest.
This is the part that jumped out at me, and I want to get your take on this, because when you watch the documentary, and half the people in it are people I've had on this show and interviewed, and they're all saying this one thing, which is that presidents don't need to know, that presidents and highly elected members of the cabinet or high appointed members of the cabinet are deliberately kept out of the loop because of our election system. The president might be gone in 4 years. He'd definitely be gone in 8 years. And all of his cabinet goes with him. And they want to keep the circle of who knows so small.
Have you got a question in there? Come on.
Small and so tight that that's how it is that we have a president and a vice president who administration after administration is deliberately kept out of the loop.
Yeah, Elizabeth, and credit to Dan Farah and the Age of Disclosure, because he did capture Rubio explaining explicitly how that could happen. As extraordinary as what you just outlined may seem to us, Rubio explains a hypothetical where very much, the political appointees are viewed as quote unquote temporary help, and then the career officials, if you want to talk about a deep state, the career officials are the ones that retain the secret if this is all true. I just want to also quickly echo what Mike Schellenberger said on your show last night, which is we're way beyond the point where President Trump needs to come out and clarify this, because J.D. Vance has made extraordinary comments about this topics, Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard, John Radcliffe, the CIA director, and that applies to both sides of the aisle. Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Senate Democrats,
and don't remember,
sponsored legislation.
Harry Reid was the one who really
Precisely.
Exactly, a Democrat. It's one of the few issues, by the way, that has managed to unite both parties. We see, congressmen from very far ends of the other side of the aisle working very closely together on this issue. Do you think we're finally there?
I think we're there. Can you imagine the worst case scenario for me is that they come out and go, we've really looked into this. We've kicked down every door. We've lifted over every rock, and there's nothing to it. It was all just one big, massive disinformation campaign, all the way from the 1940s when Roswell happened. Every historical sighting has been some sort of technical black project. Even back in like 1,000 years ago, that's just people misinterpreting things that we're seeing in the skies, maybe. That, for me, would be probably one of the worst sort of parts of Disclosure, is there's nothing to the subject, because the mystery and the wonder would just die at that point. Are we alone in the universe? It's massive, but technically possible. The other flip side of that is we find out that, the reality is we're all on some sort of petri dish laboratory prison planet, and we've just sat here created, and our reality is something drastically grim. On the flip side, it could be that we've got NHI that are visiting us that are looking out for our best interests. Who knows?
We won't be there until the president steps to the microphone and makes an announcement. I do want to just quickly hit on the bipartisan element of this. That's extraordinary. First of all, this topic has united a deeply fractured and politicized Congress for starters. But that also makes me think that this is not some kind of psychological operation, right? What on earth would John Brennan and John Radcliffe, two of the president's, one of his biggest allies and one of his biggest detractors, they're saying the exact same thing. These folks, again, are miles apart politically, but they're all in lockstep on this. I find that extraordinary, and it is time. This confusion, all these conflicting narratives from the Pentagon that's denying this, and that you have all of this the shatter from the administration, folks and high-level folks. The president needs to come out and clarify just what is going on.
Let's hope so. Merrick von Rennenkampf, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
What do you think? Do you think Trump's going to do it? Do you think he's going to be the disclosure president? Is he going to come out and put out a press conference and do a big, beautiful speech about the big, beautiful aliens? Would the general public believe it? I'm not sure, people who have got a burgeoning, real burgeoning interest in this topic will probably go, I believe it, because we've always believed that there's something to this. Would we believe that it's the full truth? Maybe not. Because you can never trust the government, really, can you? Would the general public believe it, or would it just be... I think some people will be, yeah, it's just a distraction from like the Epstein files or something else. You know what I mean? Venezuela war, maybe. It's just a big distraction, so it's distracting you from something else. And the other probably half would go, I don't really care one way or the other, because I've got bills to pay and I'm still going to work tomorrow, whether there's aliens or not. So, yeah, I think it would be amazing if Trump came out, but I don't think it's going to have the massive impacts on society to find out that we're not alone in the universe and that an NHI presence has been here on Earth. I think society will still go on unless the message that came along with it is, and our abject reality is a lot different than what we think it is. And the truth of it is X. That would probably change society for the better or for the worse. Let me know what you think anyway, and I'll see you on the next one. You take care. Cheers.